so small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall.
Hey everyone, I am Bianca. I'm going to show you 30 Dollar Tree DIYs today for spring. Now, I like to do this once I am done with a certain season, so I'm ready to move on with summer DIYs. So I'm going to show you all of my spring DIYs from this year that I've posted already. You might have seen some of them, but maybe not all of them, but I just really like to put all of them in one video for y'all just so it's easier to access. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get started. DIY, I'm using these 3 items from Dollar Tree. I have some shower curtain rings. Yes, very random, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do. And I have 2 picture frames, one 4x6 and one 8x10. And I'm going to remove everything, including the glass. So I got the inspiration for this DIY from the new spring decor line from Michaels. It's not exactly a dupe, but it is an inspiration piece that I thought I could recreate to make it look somewhat like that. I just thought it would be really cool to try to recreate a decor piece like this. I turned the frame around on the back side, and it has a little indentation where you set the glass on and it stays. So that's what I'm using to add the shower rings to. So I'm just setting them up how I want them, or the way they're gonna fit well, and then I will start hot gluing. So I would suggest, of course, using either super glue, gorilla glue, E6000. I'm just using hot glue for video purposes. Hot glued, and now what we're gonna do is paint the whole thing. So yes, I know it looks a little cray-cray, but it's gonna turn out pretty cute. What I'm gonna do is just use my antique parchment to paint the whole thing. And of course, you know, it would be easier to spray paint, but I didn't have any more white spray paint, and I did not feel like going to another store. We've been going to Home Depot a lot already as it is, just doing little DIYs around the house, and I just didn't feel like going again for the millionth time. Anyways, so I just decided to use what I have. That's what I do a lot of times. But yes, if you have spray paint and you're gonna do something like this, you can use that and use whatever color you want. I'm gonna go ahead and paint the whole thing with this antique parchment paint from Apple Barrel, and then yeah, let it dry. Once that is completely dry, I'm going to use my antique wax from Waverly and go over that frame. I'm going to use just one of my regular Walmart brushes that I have and go over the frame. And just the frame alone, because I want it to look like wood. So every time you paint something like this, like a plastic item, and you want to make it look like wood, the first thing you do is paint it white. Some type of white, because this wasn't white. It was kind of like an off-white, just to give it a good base coat, basically like a primer. And then you can go over it with a brown paint, or like this, in my case, the antique wax. I decided to use this small wooden chalkboard frame from Dollar Tree. I already had it on hand, so I decided it would look a little better than the 4x6 frame, but you could still use that if you decide to make this. All I did was cut out a spring decal from my Cricut and added it to the center of this. And now I will hot glue this on top of the little shower curtain rings. And the last thing I did was add more hot glue on the back in between the rings and the frame, just for a more secure hold. Again, you can use a stronger glue than I did. I'm taking this Dollar Tree bath mat. Honestly, I have not ever really paid attention to these. I posted a picture on Instagram. If you don't follow me over there, go ahead and do so. And I posted what I'm about to show you, what I made. I was like, oh, you will never guess what I made. And I was so surprised that so many people knew what I used to make the vase. So is it just me, or have you seen other YouTubers use this bath mat for DIYs? I haven't, but let me know. I thought it was just a really unique look to it. That's why I picked it up. All right, before I cut out and paint this, I need to clean it really well. I just used some Windex. You can use any type of cleaner that you have, just so the paint sticks on when I do paint it. So now I'm grabbing my Dollar Tree vase and I'm wrapping the mat around it just to see about how much I need to cut out from the mat. I'm going to use my white chalk paint from Waverly. I bought this at Walmart and it's lasted me a really long time. The paint is really thick, so normally you don't really have to do a second coat. I only do because it just depends on the look I'm going for. But when you are painting plastic, something that's clear plastic like this, I don't think it's a good idea to use spray paint because obviously that would be easier. Last time I used spray paint on a piece of clear plastic like this, it never fully dried. It stayed sticky. So let me know if you guys have used this or tried to use spray paint on this. Let me know how that worked out. I like to use chalk paint on things like this because it dries fast, and the only reason why it's kind of showing up like it's not fully covering it is because I added a little bit of water to the chalk paint. I shouldn't have done that. If you don't add water, then it will cover this really well. So once I fully painted it, I'm just lightly doing a second coat. You could totally leave it like this though. Now I'm going to wrap it around the vase and just cut out the piece I need. I'm only going to cover about 80% of the vase. You can fully cover it, just depends on the vase that you grab. I got one that kind of sticks out at the top, so it wouldn't fully cover the whole thing anyways, but I wanted to go for that look, so it just depends what kind of look you want and the kind of vase you picked up, like I mentioned. And now I'm just adding hot glue. And the last thing I did was add these magnolia flowers. I don't know if you can tell, but these are from Dollar Tree. They just put these out at my local Dollar Tree, so hopefully you can find them because they are really pretty. Start off by using these 3 Dollar Tree items. I have a sink mat, a dry erase paddle. I was looking for a little cutting board from Dollar Tree, but I couldn't find any. So I just picked this up, and I also have some push pins. I'm going to use about 4 rows of this sink mat on the dry erase board just to make it look like a basket on here. So I'm going to cut that out.
My whole world has changed since baby, I got you.
I'm going to use some black apple barrel paint in matte to paint this. I have used the sink mat quite a few times in my DIYs, and let me just tell you, I did use spray paint one time and it did not ever fully dry. So now that is why I just decide to paint it all the time, because it does fully dry with this apple barrel paint. I am going to add the push pins inside of the sink mat into the dry erase board. So I have one already in there, and I'm going to show you when I add another one right now. So once I do push it through though, I'm going to take a hammer, and on the back side, since it does stick out a little bit, I don't want to poke myself. I'm just going to hammer that down so it's not sharp. So I just grabbed a cardboard piece, that way I don't push a hole in my table. And all you have to do is add a little elbow grease, just a little bit, and push that through there. Now you can probably tell I didn't add the sink mat fully flat on the dry erase board. That way there's a little bit of space inside so I can add some flowers. Now what I'm going to do is just add a few more of these push pins, and then we will either, you can cut off the excess or you can just fold it around to the back side. I picked up 3 of these 5x7 picture frames from Dollar Tree. I also have about half of a Dollar Tree garden fence because I used the other half for a previous DIY. What I'm going to do is use part of this fence for one of the frames. So I'm going to start cutting around this just to get a specific part of this to go in the frame. So depending on the look you want, you figure out what part you want to cut out. So now that I got the part I want cut out, now I'm going to just remove, well, I already removed pretty much everything, but I do need to remove the little pieces of hardware. So I'm just pulling those out with my stem cutters. And make sure when you do this, you pull out to the side, because if you pull up, it'll rip the picture frame. Now I'm going to use my white chalk paint to paint 3 picture frames like this. And I'm also going to paint that little part of the garden fence white as well. Are you still here? Thank you so much. You guys know that I appreciate y'all way more than y'all will ever know. And if you are, leave a little smiley face emoji in the comments. I'm going to use this traditional beige to lightly go over the frame and the garden fence. I like this color for neutral decor, but if you don't have it, you can grab any brown if you want to do the same type of look as what I'm doing, and you can just add some white paint to it. For the other two 5x7 frames, I am adding a piece of the bath mat to each one. So it's already painted white. Now I'm just gonna go over it with some of that traditional beige, and I just have the other frame and garden fence next to me so I can kind of see about how dark I need to add the brown to it. I'm gonna connect the three frames together side by side just with my hot glue. There are a lot of different options you can do for this DIY. Maybe if you want to make a window pane out of it with 4 frames, you can either do all of the garden fence for all 4 frames or the bath mat for all 4 frames. So it's just up to you. And now I'm gonna hot glue the part of the garden fence to the center frame. And the last thing I'm going to do is add hot glue to the 2 outside frames and add the bath mats to those. I really like the look of this one, and just think you can go in any direction with this depending on your home decor and different color paints that you like. I have this Dollar Tree mirror that I'm going to use. I'm going to actually use this to make a candle holder. Now, if you like that brassy copper look that it's giving, you can definitely leave it like this, but I'm going to paint it. I'm going to give it a coat of my Waverly white chalk paint. And this paint, I'm almost at the end of it. It gets really thick at the bottom. So I added a little bit to my plate right here. And I'm just dipping my brush in water and trying to make it a little bit thin, not too much. And yeah, I'm going to go over the whole framed area with the paint. Once I had it all covered with one coat, I decided to add one more light coat just on the top. I'm not fully covering the whole thing with another second coat, just the top area. Basically just the raised part of this outside frame. I'm going to use this Dollar Tree candle holder, and I'm going to add the frame mirror on top of this. So I'm just going to use some hot glue and add it on there. I have a pretty large Dollar Tree vase that I'm going to add on top of that, and also some Dollar Tree candles. Now, if you have a big candle, you can just stick that in there. I didn't have any. I have some of these small ones from Dollar Tree, so I'm just going to add 2 in there just so it doesn't look weird with one small one. Why I am starting off with this poster board, and I'm also going to use 2 of the Dollar Tree crates. I'm going to start off by cutting off a piece at the bottom with a box cutter. Since I'm on a table, I'm just putting a piece of cardboard underneath so I don't scratch my table. And I believe I cut off about 11 inches. So I start off by lightly pressing on the poster board, and then after 1 or 2 times, then I will actually push all the way through. It just cuts better like that.
A stormy rain tried to wash away the dream. Staff wanted scissors worn outside, and the diner's name is California Dreams.
I'm going to create a border around the poster board with these wood dowels from Dollar Tree. I did try to look for the long wooden skewers. I don't know if you guys have seen them before, but they're super long and I like grabbing those, but I couldn't find any, so I just grabbed these. So since I couldn't find the skewers, I'll have to add 2 of the dowels to the top, but I'll just cut them down to size to fit around the poster board. Alright, now I have them all cut out. I really like using these around the poster boards because they fit perfectly on the sides. So now you can leave it like this if you want, paint it black, whatever color you decide. I'm going to go ahead and paint them white with my chalk paint and then add a little bit of the traditional beige.
My whole world has changed, baby, since you came around. So take.
I'm mixing some black and white paint to give me a gray color to paint the crates. Now honestly, after everything was said and done with the sign I'm making, I could have just painted the crates with some of the antique parchment and the traditional beige, because at the end they do end up looking more brown than gray. But I wasn't sure what kind of paint colors I wanted to do yet. That's why at first I did paint them gray.
I said take a chance on us. Take a chance on us. Oh, the sound of your heartbeat. I'm gone.
After that, I went over it with some of the antique parchment paint.
When you kiss me, oh so sweet. You're the one.
So after changing my mind with how I wanted the crates to look, this is when I add a lot of the traditional beige on top to make it look more wooden.
I've been traveling alone, but now there's you.
Oh, and I would also add water sometimes to my brush just so I can smear it better.
My whole world has changed since baby.
I'm going to go ahead and hot glue the dowels to the sides of the poster board.
Wake me up inside. Wake me up inside. Our whole world will change while stepping into love. Oh, take a chance on us. Take a chance on us.
I'm going to use this backsplash wall sticker from Dollar Tree to add to this sign. So I know you can see that I painted some brown lines on the sign. The thing with crafting is, you know, things change, and I did change my mind again. I did want to do shiplap, but then I realized I did not like the way it looked. Like, it just did not come out right. If you want to do it, you can also use a Sharpie, which I've done before. So anyways, I decided to change the look of it and add this, which I really did like the way it turned out once it was done. So all I'm doing is trying to measure it out. I'm going to cut out a piece and start at the corner. The easiest way for me to add any type of sticker like this is to start at the corner, place it down onto whatever you're adding this to, and have a card that you don't need, and start by smoothing out the sticker onto the surface. So just do that slowly and it will go on really smooth. Once I had that down, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue down this Dollar Tree home sign to the top. I'm also going to hot glue down the crates at the bottom. Now this would also look good with 3 crates, but I'm only going to use 2. So when I finished with that, I added some Dollar Tree magnolias in there with a little bit of greenery from Walmart. I am using these 2 Dollar Tree items for the next one. This is probably the simplest one today. So I have a sink mat and a burner cover for the stove. This actually comes in a 2-pack, but I just have 1 left because I used the other one for a different DIY. I need to cut this out, so just take something that you can see. I have this chalkboard marker that I'm going to use to trace it, and then I'll cut this out. That way we can add it to the inside of the burner cover. Using the same technique as I did earlier on the frame, I'm going to paint this whole thing white. Once it's dry, I'm going to add some of my antique wax to the top with a more stippled bristled brush, and that way it kind of looks wooden. Alright, so I know y'all heard me say a more stippled brush. That's not what I meant, because this is more of a finer paint brush that I'm using right now, and I don't want that. You see how it goes on like too smooth? So I just grabbed a more of a wild bristled brush, and it comes out looking better and looks like it would be wood grain. I decided to go with this brush instead. I'm going to hot glue this onto the burner cover now. So again, this is something you can get creative with and do different colors. I forgot to mention that I saw something similar to this and I just could not find the picture online to show y'all what gave me the inspiration. But that's why I made this, because I saw something similar. I'm gonna make a plant hanger. It's really simple. Everything you see here is from Dollar Tree. I picked up some of these white florals from there. And then I also have a plant hanger chain, a metal hanger in case you want to screw that in somewhere on the ceiling in your house. I'm not going to use the chain, but I did pick it up just to show you they do have that. And the reason why I'm not using the chain is because the pot that I picked up from Dollar Tree already has a white piece of rope connected to hang it, so I don't need that. And I'm trying my best not to use black in this video because my favorite color is black and I always end up using it somehow. So I tried to stay away from black in this video. So first I'm gonna add some floral foam in here. Once I do that, I'm gonna start sticking the white stems all around. At first I do start to add the flowers towards the front of this flower pot, but in the end I do kind of spread them out all around because the way I hang it up, you're gonna be able to see all sides of the flower pot. So I start spreading them out evenly. And then I'm also gonna add some greenery that I have had on hand for a while. So this is what I hung the planter up on because I already have this hook up in my kitchen, so I didn't need to install the other one. And these are how the flowers came out. Like I said, I spreaded them out and added some of the greenery. So it was super simple. I hope you like this one. I picked up a trellis from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use a brown spray paint to spray paint the whole thing. While that is outside drying, I picked up a Easter basket from my Dollar Tree. So basically all I'm going to do is remove the handle area, and all you really have to do is just pull it off. And then I'm also going to remove the rim on top, which is connected with those little pieces of white wire. Now that I have the handle and the rim of the basket removed, what I'm going to do is cut this basket in half. Now you don't need to use stem cutters, you can use scissors, which would have been easier. I don't know why I was using this. I guess I thought the basket was going to be real tough, but it wasn't. Now that I had that side cut, I'm just going to add hot glue to all the ends of the basket that I had cut through. That way it won't fall apart. Now that I have them cut in half, I'm going to paint both of them white with my white chalk paint. Now this would be better to use spray paint on, just because it would be way faster and it would probably cover a little bit better. I had to do about 3 coats with my paint. So now I'm going to take the trellis and just cut off the 2 bottom parts that would go in the ground. That way it's even. And so I have a more sturdy bottom to my basket since all of the bottom is kind of torn up. I am going to place the basket right here on top of the poster board, and I'm going to trace it, cut it out with my box cutter, and then I will hot glue it down underneath the basket. So now I'm going to use some Dollar Tree floral wire to connect the bottom big basket. And you'll see how I do that because it's just way easier to watch than for me to explain. So after I sealed that with hot glue, I'm adding the floral wire through the basket and around the trellis, and I'm just going to twist and tighten that really well. After I did that first one, I grab another piece of floral wire and I just wrap it around the basket and the trellis a few times just for extra support. And I did this to the other side as well. So now for the top basket, I'm gonna make it smaller just by cutting off a few inches on each side. So on the side of the little basket, I start off in the center by adding another piece of floral wire, and I just basically do the same thing I did to the bottom basket and just wrap it around. All in all, I believe I did about 3 floral wires on each side of the smaller basket. And then I added another piece of the poster board underneath that one as well. So I added the same type of greenery that I used earlier and the magnolia florals from Dollar Tree. A Dollar Tree garden fence. I'm going to use some stem cutters, but you can use sharp scissors as well. So first thing I'm going to do is take off the 3 stakes at the bottom. Well, 2 because I'm only going to use half of this fence. Once I do that, I will cut it in half. I have these 3 wooden drawers from Dollar Tree. They are actually drawers. They come with a more smaller wooden box inside of them, but I already took them out. 2 of them are actually recycled. I used them for a different DIY, I think for Valentine's. And then this one that's not yet stained, it's new, so I need to stain it exactly the way the other 2 are. And to do that, I just dip my brush in water and then dip it in the glaze, the antique wax, and then go over the box. Now I'm going to hot glue the 3 wooden boxes together. To add the boxes to the garden fence, I'm going to lay the fence down, add some hot glue on there, and then add the boxes. Now this is going to be sitting on a table. I'm not going to hang it up, so hot glue is okay to use. And I'm adding more hot glue to the back. So I kept the cardboard back area part of the picture frame, and what I'm going to do is just, recycle something, and I'm going to cut out a piece and cover the back up with it. It's not really for more of a hold because it's not going to help. It'll stay together just fine with the hot glue, but I'm actually using this just to give it a more finished look in the back. You can add whatever you want inside of here, any kind of flowers, any type of greenery. I have some greenery. I don't remember where it's from just because I always pick up greenery every time I go to Walmart or Hobby Lobby. And then I'm also going to add some tulips in here. These are from Amazon. They are actually a better deal than buying the single stemmed tulips from Target every year. Target has the tulips for $1, and these came with way more, better quality, longer stems for a cheaper price. My Amazon store is always linked below, and you can check it out there. I have 3 round glass vases from Dollar Tree. So I'm going to be removing the sticker tags on the bottom, and I'm using some glue gun for that. I've also purchased this at Dollar Tree a while back. I didn't even know they had these until somebody told me. So what I like to do is just remove what I can and then apply this and let it sit for a few minutes and scrape it off. And then I'm going to wipe the glass really good with just some window cleaner. So right here, I am going to start placing the florals inside. I was going to add the eucalyptus, and you will see me add it in there, but I do end up removing them because I just didn't like how big they looked inside of the vases, if that makes sense. So I just use this greenery right here that I'm pulling off. I end up using, I think, a couple of those and then 2 stems of the white florals from Dollar Tree. Actually going to remove these single little white flowers. Instead of doing that, I literally put in 2 whole stems because it just looks better, but you could totally do that if you want. And then I am going to stack all 3 vases on top of each other. I'm not going to glue them together, which you totally could if you are worried about them, you know, falling over and breaking. Where I'm going to set it, I'm not worried about that. You know, it's totally up to you if you want to keep changing out florals throughout the year or not, or maybe you just, you know, want to buy more vases to have different types. You know, this part's up to you. So as far as the vases go, as you can see, I just kept playing around with it till I got it the way I wanted it to look. You can also use different colored florals as well. Onto the second DIY, I have 5 Dollar Tree canvases. These are all 5x7s. I actually got inspired by this from a Hobby Lobby one. It looks almost identical, the one I'm about to make, except mine is going to be turned horizontally and the one I saw was more of a vertical frame. So I wouldn't get confused. I moved one to the side because that one I'm not going to remove the canvas, and then the 4 frames I have, the one including in my hand, I am removing the canvases because I want to expose that wooden frame. And then whatever is stuck under the staples, because I'm not removing the staples, I'm just going to trim it off. Now, I have used tons of canvases like this, and I have recycled many, and I never know what to do with all of them. So that's why I didn't bother to try to save these. And then I'm going to sand them down with my sanding block from Dollar Tree so I can paint them. Now I'm going to use this hazelnut chalk paint from Waverly. I got it at Walmart for about $5, I believe. And I'm going to paint all 4 frames. To give it more of the look that I want, I'm adding some of this antique parchment from Apple Barrel in matte, and I'm just going to kind of dry brush some on top and wipe off the excess. You can do this however you want, but I do dry brush it at first and it kind of seemed a little too harsh. So then I did start dipping the brush in a little bit of water and remove some of the excess water before brushing it on, because then it would just take longer to dry. I have those 4 frames on the side. The 5th canvas that I am going to leave the actual canvas on, I'm going to use my moss chalk paint on here. And so what I'm going to do with this is, again, I'm going to add a little bit of water to it. And I also am taking that same brush that I have some of the antique parchment creamy paint on. And so that's going to help lighten up the green a little bit and look more spring-like. Now I'm going to take this Dollar Tree wall decal and I am going to cut out the word 8th, and I'm going to apply that to the center of the green canvas. So I have made many window panes on my channel. Even though this is not really a window pane, it's practically a whole big sign that I'm making. So that's why through this part I'm just going to fast forward and show you. It's just gluing all 4 together. It's really simple. If you haven't done it before, then I will definitely just show you real quick how I glue all of them together. I'm measuring about 4 inches on the sides and 3 inches on the top and bottom. So once I get that, I'm going to mark where the frame is at so I can pick up the frame and add hot glue to keep it in place. For a little extra support, I like to add crab sticks, or in my case right now, tumbling tower blocks to the back right here, just to keep the frames all together. I have 2 5x7s and 1 8x10. So the reason for that is the 8x10 is going to go at the bottom. I'm making a crate, by the way. You're probably like, okay, what is this? I'm making a crate, and then the 5x7s will go on the side. So I actually thought about this because I saw something like this at a store and I completely forgot. I think it was at Marshall's. I removed the canvases from the 2 smaller frames, and I'm also going to do it to the 8x10, but I just wasn't sure yet at this point. So for my crazy idea, I have this non-slip rug underlay from Dollar Tree. I grabbed it because it looked exactly like how I wanted to make the crate, you know, the one that I saw at Marshall's. So I figured it'd be so cool to add this to the 2 6x8 frames on the sides of the little crate. I'm going to trace it, cut it out with my scissors, and then I'm going to hot glue it onto the side where these staples are at.
Been traveling alone, but now there's you.
And as I'm adding glue, as you can see, I do sort of stretch out the material just so it's not too loose. Now for the 8x10 frame that's going at the bottom, I removed the canvas because I wanted the wood tone to show, but I'm going to go ahead and glue that canvas back onto the frame where the staples are at. This is just so you can't see through the bottom of the frame or the crate. I was going to add poster board as well, but there kind of was no point. It's going on a table or a, you know, console table, and it really wouldn't have mattered. And I did cut out the, I always say poster board. I did cut out the foam board. I was gonna apply it, but you can see it, and it just didn't look right. Now I'm gonna glue all 3 frames together. So this is how it's gonna go. I'm gonna add my hot glue and glue them. I should have gotten a 4th frame. Reason being is because the bottom 8x10, to complete the look of this crate, I could have just added another canvas at the top without the actual canvas, just the wooden frame at the top, and it would have completed the look perfectly. But again, I couldn't go to Dollar Tree. So that's why I had to improvise. So this was me improvising. I am using some tumbling tower blocks. I'm taking 5 and 5, so I have 10. I'm gonna glue 5 together, and I'm gonna use my Dollar Tree ruler or square, and it's gonna help me keep the tumbling tower blocks straight. So once I have those glued together, I'm gonna glue them at the top of my crate just to make it have a complete look. So I'm going to glue it right up here at the top. So now you see my vision for this. Don't you think that the 8x10 frame, you know, the other canvas, would have looked perfect on top right here? I mean, I wouldn't have had to add these blocks, but like I said, I had to improvise. So if you decide to make this, you can even make a bigger one if you want. Hopefully I've given you some type of inspiration for a DIY crate. And I also forgot to mention, you can see that craft stick in between the 6x8 frame and the 8x10. I added that there just for extra support. Using a paint stick from Home Depot. These come in a 3-pack for $1. And this is in the paint section. And I have 2 Dollar Tree drawers. So in order to get more out of this, I always use the outside of it and inside of it. So it's like a little drawer, or it says, you know, wood box. You can pull out the inside and use that block as well. So I'm going to paint my paint stick with the hazelnut paint, and I'm only doing this alone. I'm not going to add anything else to it. And now I'm going to paint the 4 wooden blocks with the moss paint. It's the chalk paint I used earlier. And I'm going to do this with some water and the paint. Now, to put this together, I am going to hot glue the first one down at the bottom, and this is going to be the one that's going to hold it all together. So what I mean is I will add some weight in here just so that way I can set it and it won't like fall over because it's lopsided. And you could also see that the little butterfly cutout won't be showing either because it's going to be turned around. And to all 4 of these, I am adding a generous amount of hot glue. And I'm only going to be putting a few stems in each one, so it's not going to be heavy at all. The only one that's going to be a little heavy is this one that I'm gluing right now. I decided to lay it down to keep it in frame for y'all. It's always kind of hard with bigger pieces like this because I'm trying to keep it in frame, but I'm also trying to make it a little easy for myself to get it right, or just to make sure it's in the middle and it's straight, it's not crooked. What I did was just measure in between, and they're all about 3 inches from each other. So now I'm going to hot glue the next one. So now that I have all 4 of them on here, I have the little pebble that I have outside. So you see, without it, it would kind of fall to the side. But now that I put the pebble inside, it stays in place. So that's what I decided to put in there for the weight. Now I'm going to use these pretty spring flowers that I got from Hobby Lobby last year. I'm just going to cut off some stems with my stem cutters, stick them in each little box, and I do have floral foam in each one. I have a square wreath form from Dollar Tree. Now I've actually been having this one for a really long time, and I just found it. I haven't used it, so I figured this would be perfect because I had this, another vision in my head on what I wanted to make. I also have 2 different types of nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. So I have that more darker one and that real light creamy one. So I'm going to start off with the more darker nautical rope, and as you can see, there are 3 twisted together. So I'm going to untangle them, and I'm going to just use one of the 3. So I'm cutting small pieces of the nautical rope because it's just easier to wrap around if it's not too long. So what I'm going to do is add hot glue at the end of that, start at the bottom of the wreath form in one corner, and I'm only going to wrap the bottom 2 of the wreath form. I add a little bit more to the top just so that stays in place since it is the beginning of this. Then I just start wrapping, and if you need to add more hot glue anywhere, you can do it. Once you get to the end of that piece you're working with, just add hot glue. What I started to do toward the end of this wreath, once I started to get like in the rhythm of everything, I started to actually stick the end of that inside of the rope instead, and it was way easier. So once I was done with the outside part of this, you just wrap the remaining little area and then add hot glue to the back. So now I'm going to cover the rest of the wreath form with the lighter nautical rope. I'm going to use this family decal from Dollar Tree. When I sat it down on top of this, I really liked the way that looked. So I decided to keep that white background. And by doing that, I'm just going to cut off the end of this, like the tag area. And I'm going to place this on top of a piece of foam board. And I'm going to trace it out. I'm going to cut it with my box cutter. It's just easier that way. It's honestly easier than using scissors. Before I glued down that sign, the last thing I did with the rope was take one of the 3 pieces from the lighter creamy rope and covered the rest of that wreath form, so the ones that are going horizontally. And then the last thing I did was glue the sign down, or the piece of foam board down, and then I applied the family decal to the top of it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Using these 2 Dollar Tree items, I have a magnifying sheet and some wall decals. So I'm going to make a sign out of this. What I originally wanted to do was pick up one of those flat clear cutting boards from Dollar Tree, but I couldn't locate them, so I decided to use this instead. The back side of this magnifying sheet is actually flat, so that's the side we're going to use to add the decals. And I'm also going to wipe it down so that way the decals stick well. The inspiration for this sign came from Pier 1. So the magnifying sheet actually worked out well because I didn't have to cut it down like I would one of the cutting mats. If you want to make something like this, you could definitely put any wording on here that you want from Dollar Tree. They have so many options now. So I picked up this sheet, and what I'm going to use is 2 of the sayings so it can fit on here well. I'm going to use be humble and be loving. I'm going to use these Dollar Tree tumbling blocks. Even though this is an inspired piece and not a dupe, I still wanted to do a border on the top and the bottom, sort of like the one on Pier 1. That's why you see me take out 16 pieces, but I ended up only using 8 of them. I'm going to make 2 sets of 4, so I am gluing 4 pieces together. And what I do is just use my Dollar Tree square, I believe is what it's called, basically the ruler, just to help me glue the blocks straight and they're not all crooked. Once I have those 2 sets, I went ahead and glued on the bottom back piece for the bottom border so that way it can stand up on its own. And honestly, you should paint them first. That's what I should have done, because once I glued this on, I decided to go ahead and paint the back piece, because I was just going to leave it like that and just paint the front piece. But anyways, just paint both of them whatever color you want and then glue them on. So once that was dry, I'm going to add hot glue, put the front piece on, and then immediately stand it up just so I can make sure that it stands up straight. What I had to do for the back row of the tumbling blocks was just paint the sides and the top. I'm not sure if you can really see that. Just that way it all comes together and doesn't look weird with just one side being white. So this is actually a burner cover. They come in a 2-pack at Dollar Tree. I was originally going to use the back side that I just showed you and add the other part of that decal, but I realized the front part looks pretty already and it looks nice. I like the greenery and where the wording is at, so I decided to use the front part. I'm going to start by hot gluing the Dollar Tree nautical rope around the whole burner cover. And I'm going to cut off the end of that rope because it's kind of taped up and it looks shiny. So you can do that if you want. Just be careful because it does kind of fray apart. So just make sure you hold it in place with the hot glue or add more hot glue to the top of that. So the inspiration for this came from Kirkland's. This sign is actually a really huge sign, but I just really liked the way the beaded area looked, and I thought it would be really cool to use something I'm about to show y'all. There's so many different options you can go with as far as, you know, non-Dollar Tree items, but I try my best to use as many Dollar Tree items just to make it easier to go to just one store and not have to go to so many other stores. Okay, so here it is. I am using the Dollar Tree bath mat for the beaded area. So as you can see, I already have it kind of chopped up because I did use it in my last video, I believe. So I do have some already painted white. What I'm going to go ahead and do is cut out the ones I already have painted and then paint however many more I need to place a border around the sign next to the rope. Again, there are many options you can go with, but I tried to do, you know, something different, something unique. And of course, it was only $1. So I've done many signs like this, and I've also used the Dollar Tree beads. I think they come with like 4 or 6, so you can go with that if you want to. You can use the wooden beads if you want. They also have some small wooden beads at Dollar Tree as well. They come in a 20-pack, I believe. So there's just many options that you can go with. Just pick what you like or what you have. Right here, I'm just showing you real quick how I painted them. I do 2 coats, so once I do a full first coat, then I go over it real quickly with a second coat. And the second coat of paint is with this antique parchment from Apple Barrel. Since on the sign from Kirkland's, it's kind of like an off-white, it's not too white, I wanted to go with that. So that's why I'm going over it with this paint, and it also sort of matches the nautical rope. It also would be smart to wait to cut out the round dots just because I had a little bit of a hard time painting them. I mean, not too much, but just, you know, I had to kind of hold it down with my finger as best as I could. So just wait to cut them out once you painted all of them. And now just to hot glue each dot down. So I just add a little bit of that glue to one side of the dot, and then I kind of tuck it under the rope a little bit. So another thing I forgot to mention is that I also like these dots because of how big they are. So if you do use like the necklaces from Dollar Tree or the little 20 pack of wooden beads from Dollar Tree, they're smaller. So that's why I liked using these dots from the Bathmat. Up at the top where the two ropes meet, I can't really stick the dot too much underneath there. So I'm just gonna cut a little bit off of there and add hot glue. So if you have an area just like that, all you have to do is just cut a little bit of the dot. I have two Dollar Tree containers that are made out of cardboard. So one of them I just keep the little tumbling tower blocks. So as you can see, I have two different heights. The bigger one I bought during Christmas time, and then the smaller one was purchased recently in the craft section. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my white chalk paint to paint both containers and lids. So the inspiration for these containers came from Amazon. I actually found the picture off of Instagram. Somebody posted it, and forgive me, I don't remember who it was. Sometimes I forget to see who the source is, so maybe you might know. You can comment down below and let me know. That way I can give them credit. But a lot of people post like Amazon favorites on Instagram. And so I saw these Amazon containers and I thought they were so pretty. So these jars are inspired by those from Instagram. I am now going to use my antique wax to paint the lids, both of them. And the reason I painted them white was just basically to give it a base coat. And I feel like the wax goes on looking more like a wood tone, I guess. So I start off very lightly with a stippled brush. It's very important, in my experience, to use a stippled brush to make it look more like wood. So like I said, I start off lightly and you can just build from there however dark you want it to look. I'm using these two small wooden blocks from Dollar Tree. It comes in a pack in the crafter square, and this is going to go on top of the lid. So if you have something else you want to use, you totally can. Alright, so these are how my lids turned out. Now I'm going to go ahead and just hot glue down the small little cubes to the top. Alright, and if you guessed that I was going to use the dots from the bath mat on the containers, you are right. I'm just going to hot glue them down. So for the smaller one, I am kind of doing the same thing as the ones from Amazon. The smaller one, I'm kind of spreading them around. And then to the larger container, I'm just going to do one row at the top. Lastly, I'm going to go over it one more time with my white chalk paint. That little flickering to the left is my ceiling fan. That's why it looks like that. I have the Magnolia Dollar Tree flowers in there with some Walmart greenery. And then that really pretty vase in the background is from Hobby Lobby that I got on clearance for a really good price. I think it was like, I believe $6. I'm using two Dollar Tree wire hanging baskets. What we're gonna do here is basically make a kind of like a cake stand or a tier tray, whatever you want to call it. I have actually seen something like this at Target, I believe. Now, the only thing is I could not find a picture. I've seen it on Instagram, in people's restrooms, in their kitchens, next to their sinks, and it's really pretty. I just could not find it. So maybe you know what I'm talking about once you see it. I removed the little hooks sticking up on top of one of them already, just with my stem cutters. So I'm going to show you how to do that real quick on the second one. So it's real simple. I just place my stem cutters around the top of there and I just go back and forth kind of squeezing, and then it'll just pop off. Now to make this tray, I'm going to take one of them and put it upside down, grab the other one and place it on top of it. And now what we're going to do to combine both of them is take my floral wire, and they have these at, or they have this at Dollar Tree. And you're just going to wrap it around the whole thing and it will stay in place. It is definitely easier to just cut off pieces of the floral wire and wrap it around. If you try to do it like that, the way I just had it, it's just too long and too big to try to twist in and out of the basket. So just cut small pieces. So this is how my basket looks. Let me know if you can tell which tray I'm talking about. I'm going to take the smaller one of the two burner covers from Dollar Tree. So there is a larger one and smaller one, and it comes in a 2-pack. And I'm going to place it upside down in the basket. So I have some fake greenery inside of a terracotta pot on top of there with some Hobby Lobby beads. I have this really pretty tea towel from Hobby Lobby and my white tulips. They are located down below in my Amazon store. It is a really good price for a huge amount. So I bought them last year. I'm going to use this Dollar Tree sign. First thing I'm doing is painting the sign lightly with my antique wax. I always start off lightly at first and then I just build on. Now I'm going to take 3 rows of 5 from the tumbling tower blocks, and I'm going to glue them the same way I did earlier with my ruler. And I'm sorry, I actually did 4 rows of 5, so 20 of the tumbling tower blocks. So the first thing I'm going to do is hot glue the very first row all the way at the top. Once I do that, I'm going to take some Dollar Tree wooden dominoes from the toy section. And it's so funny because the only reason why I even know about these dominoes is because my father-in-law started to play dominoes with my son, my 7-year-old. And so when I went to Dollar Tree recently, I saw dominoes walking through there, and they were these little wooden dominoes, and I bought them for him to play with. So he did play with them a few times, and then, you know, he stopped playing with them. When I saw this sign, I immediately thought of the little wooden dominoes. And so I was like, oh my God, I need to pick them up because we left them at my in-laws' house. So I was like, I have to pick them up so I can use them for this. So now, as you can see, I'm hot gluing down 4 of them. I was just trying to get the placement right. I'm going to spell out Home Sweet Home. So after I glued down this second row, then I placed 5 more dominoes. So I have the 4 rows, as you can see, and then I have 13 dominoes. I decided to use my Cricut to spell out Home Sweet Home because I wanted a specific look for this, but you can always pick up some word transfers from Dollar Tree, or they have a bunch of poster stickers. There's so many options that you can choose from, like always with many of my DIYs. I'm using 2 Dollar Tree Easter signs. First, I'm going to remove the sticker tags and the hardware right there in the back on both pieces. That way I can paint them. I'm going to use some Apple Barrel white paint in matte, and I'm just going to give it one good coat. So while I'm painting this, I just wanted to tell y'all thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the latest comments that I've had on my community tab right here on YouTube. I posted, you know, some pictures of me and my husband, or just me when we left out of town for our anniversary, and I had so many sweet comments, and I just want to say thank you again. I cannot express my gratitude enough. So thank you so much. And then I'm going to go over it with some of this hazelnut Waverly chalk paint, and hopefully I don't spill it. So I'm going to stir it really good, or shake it, and go over it. Now, I did start to use the same brush that I was using to paint the white on, but it doesn't go on as like rustic, I guess. It's better to use like a real stiff bristled brush, which I will change in a second. I just start off by using this, and you, of course, you don't have to do this part. You can paint it whatever color you want. I just wanted to give it somewhat of a rustic, like country type look. So you see, now I changed the brush, and I did add more white paint to the side because I needed to go over it a little, because the other brush just made it look, I don't know, it looks weird. So I'm going over it with this type of brush now. And these type of brushes, I mean, of course you can find them anywhere, but I had found this 3-pack from Walmart, different sizes for a couple dollars. Now that I have both of them painted the way I want, I'm going to use this Dollar Tree burlap ribbon. I'm going to cut 2 pieces off for each frame. And for this part, you can use any type of fabric you want.
gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes, I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. Try not to hold me down, feel alive when I'm in this town.
I'm gonna hot glue the burlap down now, and I'm just gonna use the glue on the back of the signs. And I'm also gonna use, I think I grabbed another brush or craft stick and just go over it because I don't want to burn my fingers. And you see those two holes where I removed that hardware? I purposely turned the sign upside down to cover it with the burlap. That way it won't show. I have both burlap pieces glued on there. Now I have some thumbtacks from Dollar Tree. As you can see, they're gold. First, what I was gonna do was actually push them onto the sides right here of the frame. But as I started to do that, it's just too hard to push through, and I really felt like I was going to just stab myself. I didn't think it was gonna go in all the way, which it didn't, and then I would end up stabbing myself. So I decided not to do that, but since I already had this planned in my mind of how I wanted it to look, as you can see, I'm just barely pushing them in just to see how many I need, which I used 11 on each frame. So once I figure that out, I remove them. I have this little piece of cardboard I'm gonna stick them into, and then I'm gonna paint them white. So I'm just gonna use my white apple barrel paint, but it would be perfect to use spray paint. So sometimes I do get comments about my nails. You guys, these specific nails I have on right now, it only cost me like $5 or $6 to do. So I have been doing them lately myself. I'm not gonna lie, of course, there are times I still like going to the nail salon, but I've been doing them myself and they usually do last about 2 weeks. There's a lot of things I like to try myself, for example, like my nails, to see if it is worth it, if it comes out cheaper, if it lasts a long time. So a while back, I remember doing my nails myself and they didn't last, but this time I figured something out where they do last, and I love saving money. Guys, I'm sure y'all know how that feels. I'm such a frugal person, so whenever I figured out how to do my nails myself and they were lasting the same time for the same amount of time that they last from the nail salon, except I'm paying at the nail salon like 40, 50 bucks for my nails. And these are only, I'm only paying like $5 or $6. I get so happy and excited, you know, to save money. So I'll let y'all know in a second what I do to make my nails last that long. So as you can see, the thumbtacks are dry. And what I'm gonna do is take my stem cutters and just cut off the needle part of it. And then I'm just gonna, it popped away. I'm just gonna hot glue them on. So another idea would be to use the pink little, like half beads, I guess you can call them. These are from Dollar Tree, so they will glue on flat. So you could easily spray paint these outside and then bring them in and hot glue them on as well. So that's another idea you can do. So let me tell you the few tips that I have if you want to do your nails yourself. What I do is just go to Walmart, grab a pack of nails that I like. Now, I get the ones that do not have the adhesive on them. They come with the glue. Those are just the nails that I'm using. Maybe that helps for them to last. So I grab those. I file my nails myself with the little filer that it comes with. And then I use the Kiss glue. I'm not sure if that, I mean, maybe it does matter. I've never used a different type of glue. I always use the Kiss brand glue, and my nails last, guys. So those are the few tips that I have if you want to do your nails yourself. Lastly, I'm adding these Dollar Tree flowers to them. So I believe I picked these up last year, and this is the name of them. They kind of remind me of tulips, so I really like the way these look. This next one is super simple, and I'm sure you've seen somewhat of a bunny wreath like this. I'm going to use these two Dollar Tree items. This is a wood blend wreath and this headband from there as well. After removing the tags, I turned the headband around because I really don't want too much of that pink showing, and I think this side looks perfect. So I am going to add it like this to the top and stick the ends in between the little wood pieces. To give me a little extra support with the bunny ears and so that they stay in place, I am grabbing some of this floral wire from Dollar Tree and wrapping it around right here on each end. Now I'm going to take some of this greenery and add it to the top where the bunny ears are at and kind of cover up that floral wire as well. I also have these Dollar Tree pink flowers that I'm going to add. Now I know they do have greenery at Dollar Tree, and I believe I saw them before maybe a few weeks ago at my local Dollar Trees, but I haven't found them after that, so I guess I should have picked a couple of them up. Anyways, I already have so much greenery in my like floral stash, so I just grabbed some from there and I'm going to add it to this. I'm taking another piece of floral wire and just adding it on top of that greenery right here just to hold it in place for right now. And as I add more stuff, I will completely wrap the floral wire around it. And now I'm adding pieces of the pink flowers. Once I have the pink flowers on, I just finished twisting the floral wire around it and making sure it's all in place. So I have these Amazon racks in my living room and I like to decorate it for each season. So I just added the little wreath right here. So I posted on Instagram that I finally found these wood planks at Dollar Tree. I think this is such a good deal because it comes with 6, obviously for only $1. But I finally found them. So I opened 2 packs right here because I wasn't sure how many I was going to use, but I only ended up needing 5. I'm going to use this to make a sign. So my original plan was to find one of those long, I think they say welcome on them. Every season they have a really long sign. So for Easter, they have this welcome Easter sign that's pretty long, and I was going to use that. I couldn't find any at both of my local Dollar Trees, so I decided to go with this instead. The other idea I had to use was the wooden pallets they have at Dollar Tree. You could put, you know, a few of those together to make a sign, and I think that would look pretty cool too. So I'm going to use 5 of those, and then I'm also going to use the little wooden drawers. I only picked up 3 of them because there is 2 in 1. So before gluing everything together and painting, I'm just going to show you real quick how I want this to look. So to glue the 5 wood pieces together, the first thing I need to do is add hot glue where they meet, and I'm going to add some craft sticks. That way they stay in place. And you could also use wood glue, but for video purposes, I just use hot glue. Once I have all of them glued together, I'm going to turn it around on the front side, and I'm going to go ahead and paint this. What I'm going to do is use a combination of my white paint and hazelnut chalk paint just to give it a pretty like wooden tone. I also used a little bit of water on my bristle brush just so the paint, the hazelnut paint, is not so harsh. Now I'm going to paint all 6 of the wooden boxes white with my apple barrel white paint. And I'm not sure if you can see in the background on the planks that I did use my ruler to draw out 2 lines just to make it look kind of like a shiplap. And you'll see in a little bit that I'm going to go over it with some brown wax. I use this antique wax a lot, and it has lasted me for so long. So this definitely goes a long way. So what I'm doing is just taking a real defined brush and just going over that pencil line with the antique wax. Now I'm going to add these Dollar Tree wooden letters to spell out spring on each of the wooden boxes. As you can see, I have quite a few in this little bin from Dollar Tree. And so I'm just grabbing what I have. As you can see, the R, I have used it before. So I'm going to paint all of them gray with the apple barrel gray paint, and then we'll glue them on top of the boxes. The only thing I did was paint the R white first since it was black, and then I went over it with the gray paint.
My whole world has changed.
Now I'm adding these Dollar Tree white flowers. They are the same ones as the pink ones I added to that bunny wreath. So I'm sticking them in there, and then I will also add more of the greenery that I used on that wreath and some different white flowers that I also found at Dollar Tree. So the only thing that's not Dollar Tree is the greenery. So I have this Dollar Tree wooden egg that I'm going to use. For this simple DIY, what I'm going to do is first paint the whole egg white with my apple barrel white paint. And then we're going to do a like tan or light brown buffalo check. So I'll show you how I do that in a second. So everybody has their own technique on buffalo check. There are definitely easier ways with tape, but this is just my way, and if you want to do it this way, you totally can. If not, do it the way you think is easiest. And also you can paint it whatever colors you want. So as you can see, I'm marking in 1-inch increments, both horizontally and vertically. So once I do that, then I will use the same ruler to draw the lines where I marked the 1-inch increments. So you can make these bigger if you want. After you see the whole egg, if you don't like how small the squares are, you can make them bigger too. So just depends on what you like. I'm using my hazelnut chalk paint to do the buffalo check. So for buffalo check, you need to have white paint, which is already down on my egg. And then whatever color you want to do, you need to have a lighter and darker color. So for this tannish, hazelnut paint, I need to have the darker color, which is what I'm going to do right now. And then to make the lighter tan color, I'm just going to add a little bit of white paint. First things first, I'm going to mark where I need the darker color to go, and then I will paint all of those squares. For this first row of squares, I'm going to paint 1, so I'm just going to mark that, skip 1, then paint the following 1, and you'll see the pattern in a second. The next row, you're going to skip, move on to the third row, and then do the same pattern. Now that I'm all done with the darker tan, to get the lighter tan, like I told you earlier, we're going to add a little bit of white paint to line it up. and then I will show you this pattern that I'm gonna do next. I'm gonna start off by showing you the right side because I kind of messed up on the left, and I'll explain that in a second. So I'm gonna grab some of that lighter tan, and we're gonna go on the first row in between the two dark squares and paint those. And then for the following row that has nothing whatsoever, like no paint, you're gonna alternate and go in between those. So lastly, I'm gonna paint that light tan color in, and for the last row on the left, I messed up on the pattern, so that's why I just went over it with the darker hazelnut color, and then I'll fix that at the end. And to fix the last row where I messed up, I just color that in with the lighter tan color. Now I'm gonna hot glue this galvanized spring sign to the center, kind of slanted just to give it a fun look. And these come in a 3-pack from Dollar Tree. So I decided to add some wooden beads to hang this up through the little hole at the top. And what I did was grab more of that floral wire, and it's just easier for me to use this instead of like twine because I have a hard time putting the bead through the twine and it just takes forever. So with floral wire, it's actually really fast. I always talk to y'all about these beads, guys. I've only bought this huge pack of beads one time from Amazon, and if I remember correctly, I think I only paid about 20 bucks maybe for 1,000 beads, and I've had them for forever. I don't even know, maybe over a year or two, and I have not even gone through maybe half the bag. So if you want to check those out, they're linked in my Amazon store below. So I'm going to put them through, and then I will just tie both of the floral wire pieces together, and then we'll hang it up. This is more of a DIY that you can use all year round, so I hope you enjoy this one. I'm taking one of these wall art canvas pieces from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove everything, even the canvas, so that way I can use the frame out of this. And I'm not going to worry about this back side. You can see some of the canvas and the staples because we're going to cover that anyways, and you're not going to see it. I sanded it down just a little bit so the surface was smooth on the frame. And now what I'm going to do is take this Dollar Tree bath mat, and I'm going to use this as a background for the frame. So all I'm going to do is just cut around it, and then I will hot glue it down to the frame on the back side. That way it kind of covers the staples and a little bit of that canvas that was left on there. And then we'll just trim off the edges or the excess of the bath mat. I'm adding thumbtacks to each corner of the frame. Now for this is kind of like that hardboard. So the thumbtacks go in really easily. So I do stick them in. It's not like the other sign that I showed you from the first DIY. That was made out of, I don't even know, something else, and I couldn't stick it in that. But this, it goes in easily. So once I do that, I'm gonna very carefully paint them white. And the last thing I'm going to do is add one of these gallery prints. Guys, these are actually from the Dollar Tree. When I saw them, I couldn't believe them because they're actually pretty good quality. They're like that cardstock. So you could easily just switch them out with a piece of tape. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the pink one and just add a piece of Scotch tape on the back. Don't you think the little saying is so cute? I really like that. Never lose your sense of wonder. And just think, there are so many different possibilities just for this DIY. You could put anything you want in the center. It's up to you. So first DIY, I finally found these little window arches from Dollar Tree. So I figured out something to do with them that's going to be pretty fun. So I'm just going to remove everything, including the little round oval sign where it says welcome to our home. It's just made out of cardboard. So I'm going to remove that. So I'm also going to be using this Dollar Tree chopping mat. I'm going to use the chopping mat to basically create like a little pocket on top of the window arch. So I'm just checking to see about how much I want to cover, and then I'll measure it and tell you exactly how many inches I cut off. So it's about 5 inches. I'm going to cut that off, and I need 2 of them since I have 2 of the arches. So now I'm going to take them outside and spray paint them with my white flat spray paint. Now I'm going to place it right here on the end. I'm going to wrap it toward the front and around to the side, and I'm just going to see, this is about how much I need. So I'm going to mark that real quick with my pencil, and then I'll show y'all about how much that measures out to. It's about 8.5 inches, so I'm going to mark it there and now cut that piece off. To glue this on, I'm going to use some E6000 and my hot glue. So as you can see, this is the last time I can probably use this E6000. I need to buy another one. So what I'm going to do is just add some of that in the center of the little window arch, and then on the sides I will add, or the top and the bottom, I will add the hot glue. So basically the E6000 is for a long lasting hold, and you know, a lot of us use that for crafts, and then the hot glue, of course, is for right now because it dries really fast. So you're probably wondering, okay, well, why couldn't you just use a poster board or poster, you know, from the Dollar Tree or wherever? And you can do that too. I just thought it'd be fun to use the cutting mat. So I'm going to take some of this Dollar Tree burlap and I'm going to add a trim to each side. So I'm going to cut off a piece and then we'll add hot glue. So even if you don't want burlap on here, I would still recommend using some type of fabric or ribbon. It's going to also help hold that cutting mat in place. So I'm going to add that strip right there with hot glue, and then the rest of it I will add to the back and just fold it and add more hot glue. Now I'm going to add another piece of burlap at the bottom, and this part you can decide how much you want to cover at the bottom. So I'm going to figure about half of it, and then I will cut off two strips, one for this one and one for the other little window arch. And yeah, I'm just going to do the same thing and add hot glue. For the bottom piece, we're doing about 10.5 inches. Now I need to add a bottom to this, so I'm just taking another piece of burlap at 6.5 inches and I'm going to hot glue it to the bottom. And I'm sure you can tell by now that I use the craft stick so that way I don't get so much glue on my fingers and I don't burn myself. And then the opposite sides where those other two pieces are sticking out, I'm going to add hot glue and just stick that inside of the little pocket. Now I will trim off the edges of this bottom burlap piece that we added earlier, the bottom trim, and then just hot glue the rest of that underneath. Alright, so I just hung them up. Remember, these arches have a little hook on the back of them where you can hang them up with a nail, or you can add command strips like I do. All I did was just add some lavender Dollar Tree florals in there. These are the 3 Dollar Tree items I'm using for the next one. So this one is the burner covers from Dollar Tree. I have a smaller one. They come in a 2-pack. And then this is a gold basket from Dollar Tree. And then I have a black candlestick as well. I'm going to spray paint all 3 of these items. So for the basket, I'm using this brown hammered paint, and you can use whatever colors you want, whatever spray paint you want, but I'm going to use this one for that. And then for the candlestick and burner cover, I'm going to use this one, and it also makes it look galvanized and it's hammered as well. Once they were dry, I brought them in. So now I have a brown basket instead of gold. The burner cover and candlestick, as you can see, they have like a look to it that's not smooth, and that's just basically what hammered means when you buy spray paint. So I'm adding some antique wax with a really good bristled brush. You don't want to use like a smooth type paintbrush. This one works perfect for this because I applied it really fast and easily. Once I do that, I'm just gonna let it dry again, and you can use any type of brown paint you want. So this is just to make it look like it's galvanized, and I like that look of the galvanized items that have that. So the last thing to do for this really simple and easy DIY is just to hot glue these 2 together. You can use E6000 if you choose to. So you're probably wondering, what is this clear Fiskars mat that I have right here on the bottom underneath this? And I just got it from Amazon, and it's supposed to be like a craft mat for you know, anything that you craft with, hot glue, paint, and it's supposed to come off real easy as far as like once you're done and you wash it. So I'll update y'all maybe within the next few videos, and I will link it in my Amazon store if you want to go ahead and maybe check it out. If not, I will let y'all know how good it works out. So all I did was just add this pretty little vintage like jar from Dollar General that I got last year with some tulips in there. These are my most favorite tulips. They are such a good price as well. This one was super fun to do. I could not believe it worked out. So yeah, let's get started with this one. I'm using a canvas art piece from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to remove the whole canvas so I'm left with the frame. So once I removed everything from that frame, I'm going to bring in 2 shower caddies from Dollar Tree. And I forgot to tell you, I'm gonna make basically like a lantern slash tray. So I'm gonna use the 2 parts at the top of these caddies, and I'll show you in a second. I'm just gonna take some stem cutters, and the easiest way I found it was to grab the piece that you wanna remove, just twist back and forth just for a few seconds. I did it too long because I wasn't sure how tough it was going to be, but once I twisted it back and forth, you can just pop it off. So you can bend it and it pops right off. Once I have those off, as you can see right here, I have one bent the way I want it to be bent. So it's going to go like this at the corner, and what I'm going to do is just show you how I do that. So this type of shower caddy from Dollar Tree is really easy to bend. So just play around with it, and I'm going to insert a photo right now so you can see kind of where the inspiration came from. I'm sure you've seen tons and tons of these lanterns, so I thought it'd be really cool to try to create at least somewhat of the way it came out. Not, I mean, it doesn't look exactly like it, but I thought it'd be really fun to try and recreate something like that. So to give this a bottom, I'm going to add these giant crab sticks. I have 7 of them, so all I'm doing is just cutting one side of it and then hot gluing it to the bottom. Now that I have the whole bottom part covered, I'm going to use my hot glue and some heavy duty clamps. They actually just started selling some from what I saw in my local Dollar Trees, heavy duty clamps, but these are from Home Depot. They were $1 each and I've been having them for a while. So I'm just setting it up like this to show you how it's going to look. So what I'm going to do is just let you see how I put this together. So I'm just going to add hot glue on the corners, add one side of this top shower caddy, and then clamp it in place. Now that I have both of those pieces glued on here, as you can see, I am going to use some more burlap for this DIY. I have clamps on one side still, and the other one I removed them because I'm going to go ahead and add this. So you'll see me cut a piece off right here and add it to the caddy that's connected to the frame just for a better hold. So I added the burlap to just those two sides for right now. Now what I'm going to do is take some yarn, or you can use twine, ribbon, whatever you like, just to secure the top. So I'm going to wrap this around here multiple times, and then I will remove those clamps and add the burlap to those corners. So you could leave it just like this, but what I'm going to go ahead and do is take some Dollar Tree beads and hot glue it along the top part of this lantern, and then we'll go outside and spray paint it with that white matte spray paint.
Traveling alone, but now there's you. My whole world has changed.
On to the next DIY. I'm using an old Dollar Tree frame, so you can just pick up any one that you want. Now I'm going to use this garden fence from Dollar Tree. I'm going to remove the top area with my stem cutter. So I'll show you what part I'm going to cut. I was going to use my scissors, but I didn't really want to mess them up. So it was just easier to use the stem cutters. And then I'm going to show you how I was going to glue it on here at first and decided not to because it wasn't staying. It didn't want to stick with my hot glue. So I found another solution. So at first I was going to hot glue it to the sides of the frame, but I tried it a few times and it just would not stick. So I decided to turn it around and hot glue it in the kind of inside the little indentation of the frame, and you'll see that in a second, and it was able to stay. So now that I have both of those on each side, I'm going to take more of those giant craft sticks and I'm going to place them inside of the bottom of the frame to give it another bottom. So this is going to be another tray, just a different look. So once I do that, once I get the right size, I'll use that one as a template and cut all of them out, hot glue them on there, and then I will paint and stain them. So now I got all of those hot glued down there and I took it outside and spray painted it. I'm going to use my hazelnut chalk paint to kind of go over the crab sticks with a little bit of water. At first, I wanted it to be kind of light. It was a little bit too light, so then I did go over it a little more with my antique wax. Now I'm going to take 4 tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree and paint it with the hazelnut chalk paint. And then after this part, then I'll do the antique wax. And then the last thing to do was just to hot glue these to the bottom on the 4 corners. So for this last DIY, it could not be easier. I just wanted to show you a really easy and simple way you could vamp up any basket from Dollar Tree. So this was gold, but I spray painted it black. And then you can take any type of twine or string. Again, I'm just using yarn. I am going to just create a little bottom trim for this. And you can use fabric, like I said, any type of rope, whatever you choose. I just thought it'd be pretty cool to do this yarn. So this yarn that I have is from Walmart, but they do have tons and tons of yarn that I have seen at my Dollar Trees. So I just tied it on one end and then I'm going to go in and out until I get the look that I want. Once I got it the way I want, this is how it looks. You can go higher or lower, whatever you choose to do. So as you can see, I have a little galvanized piece on the left side. I'm using this Dollar Tree universal tool hooks from there. And what I'm going to do is really simple. You just grab one and I'm going to bend it with my stem cutters and put it on the other side. So it was that simple, and I'm just going to set it on the side, on the right side. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this last DIY. As you can see, I love the tulips for spring. It's so pretty and it's super easy to make anything look nicer just by painting it and adding a few touches. So Thank you for watching all 30 DIYs today. I appreciate it so much. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see y'all in the next video.